all of Ford's electric vehicles just doubled in value, at least in my opinion, because Ford took a leap to celebrate Leap Day by gaining access to the Tesla Supercharger network. No, not just the one with Magic Docks, and I think they've done it in the most genius way possible, given the hardware and software that they had available to them. But this is pretty cool because we knew that Ford was going to be sending out adapters pretty soon, but I didn't expect the plug-in charge to just work from day one. So it does require a software update on the Blue Oval app on the phone as well as the car, but once you're running the latest software on your phone and your car, and those updates are being pushed out right now before most of the adapters are even going to be shipped, it means that you'll be able to pull up to a V3 supercharger in your F-150 Lightning or your Mustang Mach-E, or yes, even your Ford E-Transit van. They didn't forget about the E-Transit. You put this adapter on the end of the V3 supercharger cable, you plug it into the car, and boom, after about 20 to 30 seconds, it just starts charging. You don't have to download an app after you've set up the whole Oval app and everything, but most Ford customers already set that up because that's kind of how you manage your car and check out for chargers. But even built into the public charging tab on Ford's vehicles, Tesla Superchargers that are open will show up. It will tell you how many stalls are available, which is really cool to see, actually accessible in a non-Tesla. It will tell you whether or not you need to supply your own adapter, because, you know, some superchargers still have Magic Docks, which, based on what Ford has announced to us today, they're saying that if you do have the latest up-to-date software on your Ford vehicle and you show up to a supercharger that has a Magic Dock now, you can just hold down the button to release the Magic Dock, don't have to unlock it via an app anymore, and then just plug it into your Ford, and after a few seconds, it just starts charging, and Ford handles all of the billing. The confusing part, though, is because a lot of these V3 superchargers don't have screens on them, because Tesla was accustomed to putting all of that pricing and charging speed data on the display, the first people that gain access to these adapters aren't really gonna know what the price of that supercharger is without downloading the Tesla app, or how fast of a charging speed they're getting. It's one of the weird things that Ford has chosen not to show on their electric vehicles. How fast is the car actually charging? But the adapter itself is rated up to 500 amps, which more than covers what Ford's peak charging speeds are, which is typically around 150 kilowatts. And no, not every single supercharger is available to Ford now, but over 15,000, which is a lot considering it was pretty much just a couple dozen yesterday. Essentially, it has to be a V3 supercharger in order for it to work, and the adapter does not include AC charging pins, so you can't put the adapter on a Tesla destination charger or, you know, a wall connector. It has to be a V3 or a V4 supercharger. That means that V2 superchargers are still going to be exclusive to just the Tesla guys out there, because there's a certain communication protocol that apparently Tesla didn't feel like adding or is too hard to add to the V2 hardware. So if you have a regular V2 supercharger you're used to using, don't worry, that can remain your elitist Tesla only charger. But essentially all other V3s and V4s are pretty much all up for grabs. There's a few instances people have found online where a couple of V3s are not accessible to Ford yet, but again, it won't show up on the Ford's mobile app. The car's not going to route you to a station it's not compatible with. And the best part about all of this is they're allowing you to get the adapter for free if you own a Ford electric vehicle. You just have to go to ford.com/fast charging adapter, and once you sign into your Ford account, it automatically adds all of your billing address for you just to make sure that they're shipping it to the right place. Ford's already not making a huge profit on most of these EVs, so I think it's in good faith that they're actually deciding to just give these adapters away for free, at least for right now. What Ford said on the Out of Spec podcast recently that I think could easily be missed if people aren't paying attention close enough is that you can claim your free adapter starting today. Shipping is supposed to start at the end of March, but the adapter is only going to be free if you claim it before June 30th. After June 30th, if you don't claim the free adapter, you're probably going to have to end up paying around $200 for that adapter. So it's not free for all Ford customers, but the good news is Ford has already committed to switching to NACS on their vehicles in the not too distant future anyway. So around early 2025, or hopefully sooner, maybe end of this year, Ford will actually start manufacturing their EVs with the NACS port on them natively, so then we won't have to fuss around with adapters on that point onward. That makes sense. That's pretty logical to me. So if you have a Ford EV, please make sure you claim your free adapter before June 30th. And I'm sure a lot of concern is already going around because of the charge port location, both on the F-150 Lightning and the Mach-E, although surprisingly not so much on the E-Transit. They put it on the front center, so the E-Transit might actually only occupy one stall at most V3 superchargers, because because the cable could just about reach there and you should be good to go, maxing out at about 115 kilowatts. So you're gonna be a big old van in there taking your precious time to charge up. But when it comes to the Mach-E and F-150 Lightning, even in Tesla's own marketing material, they have to occupy 2 stalls in order for the cable to reach. And that's gonna be a bit of a headache at a lot of busy superchargers. I think that most superchargers that people go to on road trips tend to be pretty open and pretty vacant, so it shouldn't be a huge problem. And if anything, I would encourage Ford customers to try to park to the rightmost charger, because there's a lot of V3 superchargers I've been to where they're kind of in a line, but there's more parking spaces near the end. So if you park to the right of the final stall on the right, then you actually won't be occupying a supercharging space and the cable should still reach to your car. So work on that first, and then Ford vehicles can kind of stack off to the right and Teslas can stay to the left. It's almost perfect how all that works out, right? So there might be a little bit of a headache at first. I'm hoping that when Ford adopts NACS, they also consider relocating the charge ports. Tesla should be doing their best as well with V4 superchargers because they have longer cables. They also have magic docks built into them, so you shouldn't even need an adapter at those stations. That way, your Ford vehicle, hopefully at those stations, can only occupy 1 space, but you never know. We've been to a V4 supercharger where they were laid out in such a way that even if your charge port is on the front, like an F-150 Lightning, the longer cable still can't reach, so you would still have to occupy 2 spaces at those stalls. Assuming Tesla keeps deploying more superchargers all the time, which it feels like they are, and now because they're opening them up to non-Teslas, they should get a bit more state and federal funding for this charging infrastructure. I'm hoping that results in there just being such a plethora of superchargers that we won't run into a lot of situations where they're totally packed and there's Fords and Mach-E's, you know, filling them up unnecessarily. To me, these electric vehicles just became some of the best non-Teslas on the market because Electrify America, hands down, was prohibiting non-Teslas from actually being considerable. Most people are not buying vehicles just so they can drive them around town. People want the option to be able to road trip, and they don't want to have to worry about whether or not the charger is actually going to work when they get there. And EA has been so unreliable to so many EVs. I think it has single-handedly killed a lot of people's hope or killed a lot of people's confidence in electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And that's why so many reviewers had to keep coming back to, okay, you can't trust EA, you can't buy this EV, the only EVs worth considering are Teslas. And for one reason or another, a lot of people may not want a Tesla, whether it's the overly minimalistic interiors, whether it's the build quality, whether it's Elon, whatever your reasons are, there's many reasons why someone might prefer buying a Mach-E or an F-150 Lightning, and I totally understand that, and I personally don't think it makes sense to have to decide between entire charging networks whenever you buy your car. So I'm so grateful that finally we're reaching a point where you can buy a non-Tesla in the United States, of course, and still have confidence that you can take it on a road trip and have thousands upon thousands of superchargers to pull from. And of course, on top of all of this, they're going to have plug and charge functionality, so you can just throw the adapter on there, plug in, it starts charging, and you don't even have to think about it. That's the way EVs are meant to be, and I think this increases the desirability. Who knows, it might even increase the resale value of a lot of Ford's vehicles. Even me this morning, after checking out the F-150 Lightning a couple days ago, I was like, man, okay, this truck is actually pretty awesome. I could take it on a road trip and never have to touch Electrify America and just plug into all the same superchargers that I'm used to plugging in when I road trip. Got those grab handles, and I've got CarPlay finally. You got a nice big bed and a nice big frunk and lots of space on the road. Same thing with the Mach-E. Beautiful, fast performing vehicle. Now a lot of Mach-E's even have lithium iron phosphate chemistries. Personally, I think the Mach-E's are gorgeous. I wouldn't have branded them as Mustang, but I know a lot of Tesla people get mad when I say this. I think the Mach-E looks a bit better than the Model Y. It's just a bit more stylized. It's not as efficient for sure, but I love that frunk with the drainage hole so you can fill it with ice, and there's a lot of storage space in the back. Knowing that both of these are now able to access what in my opinion was Tesla's greatest advantage, the supercharger network, just made me a lot more tempted to kind of go check one out. I'm like, man, I want to go on a road trip now with one of these Ford vehicles. I want to see what it's like. I want to mess around with these magic docks and V3 superchargers, and I'm just so excited and so much more hopeful now for EVs. What about you guys? How are you feeling about this rollout? Are you excited for what Tesla has showcased on their website that in the spring, which means, you know, before summer, so in the next couple of months, Tesla's own website now is even name dropping Rivian, Volvo, Polestar, and General Motors, saying they're all going to get access to this adapter, and I hope that means plug and charge within the next couple of months. So it's a very exciting time for the electric vehicle future. I know Ford has cut back on a lot of their production, but I think it makes sense to when they should focus more on making sure their current EV customers have a reliable and consistent charging experience, and I think this is going to win over a lot more people now. All your thoughts, let me know what they are down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.